And I think we have Fox News Sunday anchor and chief legal correspondent Shannon Bream joins us by phone. Hey, Shannon.
Hey, Charlie. Good evening to you guys. Big news for your Sunday night show.
Yes, it is big news. Were you surprised by this?
You know what? Part of me, yes, part of me, no. I mean, we had all pressed the White House many times. You've seen Peter Doocy do it and Jackie Heinrich and all of us asking whether this was a possibility, asking every different way, would there be a pardon? Would there be a commutation? And repeatedly being told, no, it absolutely will not happen. But there was always this part of me that thought, listen, if you're the outgoing president of the United States, you have the power to spare your son. You're going to do it, and I think a lot of the American people will understand what you've done as a father. I think this is very interesting. The wording we have from this release from the White House, it says a full and unconditional pardon for the offenses against the U.S. which he has committed, meaning Hunter Biden, or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024, including but not limited to all of the offenses charged or prosecuted by the special counsel. So this is beyond the two cases. This is saying if there's anything else in that period for essentially 10 years, I, as President Joe Biden, am giving him a full pardon for things that may not have even been charged yet, that may possibly still be out there. So
that's such a fascinating point. So, and just on legal, speaking technically, the difference between a commutation. Explain the difference between a commutation and a pardon, and then how that applies to this full pardon.
Yeah, this full pardon, I mean, that wipes it out as if the person was never guilty. They were never, tagged with this crime, with this result. It didn't happen. Commutation, you may have served part of your sentence. You may wipe out part of the sentence, but it doesn't get rid of the guilt, the underlying conviction or plea deal. So they are different, and this one is much more expansive in that respect. And remember, I mean, this release from the White House and from the president talks about the fact that they believe he was politically prosecuted. But remember, as that deal came together, that then fell apart when a federal judge, started asking questions. Remember, we heard from those IRS whistleblowers, which you guys have mentioned. I've interviewed them and interviewed Joseph Ziegler, who talked about this is not a conservative guy. But he said, I was watching these cases unfolded, and essentially our hands were tied. We couldn't get to certain evidence. We couldn't talk to certain people. And, he felt burdened enough as an IRS investigative agent that he wanted to come forward and say this deal is not legit.
Shannon, Lisa Booth here. So you had mentioned that this pardon is much broader than just the time period for the gun charges and the tax charges as well. What does that signal to you in looking at this as, potential further guilt of Hunter Biden and things he might have done?
Well, I think that the president, having decided that he was going to switch the messaging we got from the White House, which was no pardon, no commutation, I think once he decided to move forward this for his son, I mean, he's going to not have this power in a few more weeks, and he wanted to step forward, do this for his son, and expect that many of the American people are going to understand a father doing that. But it does go beyond the two cases he was awaiting sentencing in. It's much broader. Not that there's any indication there's anything else Hunter would have been charged with, but I think the president, having decided he was going to take this step, he wanted to make it as broad as possible to give as much protection to Hunter as possible for that time period that probably links up with when he, prior to the last 5.5 years or so that he's been sober, but when he was really struggling with addiction, and the president has always tried to protect him, saying people make bad decisions in their addictions, and he's cleaned up his life. And I think the president wanted to issue as much possible protection for him as broadly as he could before he leaves office.
Do you have a theory as to why, usually we get these pardons like midnight on January 19th, and there's a raft of them. They get all the embarrassing ones in there as well as the more defensible ones. And as you point out, this one will be perhaps easier to defend because you're talking about a guy's son, but also not exactly a political high point for Joe Biden. But I wonder why he would do it, a month and a half before he leaves office.
Yeah, well, you're coming off of a holiday weekend. A lot of people may be traveling, maybe not paying attention. You drop it on a Sunday night. It's certain to make headlines on Monday morning, but our news cycles go so quickly. What's going to be the headline by Monday night? By the time you get to those traditional evening news watchers, although we have news 24 hours a day on Fox News for you, it may have been that. Maybe there was some family discussion over this Thanksgiving weekend and a real heart-to-heart and a real soul-searching by President Biden. Also, he's getting ahead of the sentencings because those were coming. And I had thought, listen, if Hunter Biden gets some jail time assigned to these, convictions, maybe then the president would say, okay, I'm not going to let my son go to jail. But there's something about doing this ahead of the sentencings that, will wipe them out. So we don't have to find out whether Hunter Biden is, it's simply going to be a matter of fines or probation or whether there would have been jail time that also came with these sentencings. The president is getting ahead of that.
And for those of you home that are just joining us now, just want to kind of update you on the situation here. This is breaking news coming out of Washington. According to NBC, President Biden will be signing a pardon for his son Hunter, which essentially means no jail time whatsoever for him, and he gets off scot-free. We have Shannon Bream on the phone. Shannon, I want to talk about the charges that he faced and the charges that he's getting off on. On December 12th, he was scheduled to be sentenced in his conviction on federal gun charges. And then also he was set to be sentenced in a separate criminal case on December 16th after pleading guilty in September on federal tax evasion charges. He pled guilty to those charges. So that was a deal that he obviously tried to plea out on by pleading guilty. He was hoping for a lesser sentence if in fact he were to be sentenced. Let's say hypothetically that this pardon didn't happen. What kind of jail time do you think he could face?
Well, there were many skeptics out there, including, people who are, right of center, including former prosecutors who said, listen, these cases are not ones that I would have brought. This guy is, there are other people that do things like lie on gun forms that doesn't often get prosecuted. So there was a sense among a lot of people, and that includes, our colleague Trey Gowdy, who was a longtime federal prosecutor, who said, I'm not sure I would have brought these cases or that they would have been strong cases against somebody considered a first-time offender. So he has expressed real doubts that there would have been serious jail time. But, when you look at these two cases, it's not just a situation of him being a first-time offender, because you do have two sets of separate federal charges that ended up with some type of guilt for him. So those could have piggybacked into something bigger. But there were a lot of folks who thought, as a first-time offender, probably not a serious amount of jail time, if any. Okay,
Shannon, we've got a statement from President Biden saying, today I signed a pardon for my son Hunter, alleging that the prosecution of his son was politically motivated and a miscarriage of justice. Quote, the charges in this case came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress investigated them to attack me and oppose my election. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's case can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son. I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. Biden added, claiming he made the decision this weekend. He and the family are spending Thanksgiving holiday in Nantucket, Massachusetts, with the entire family. So as you pointed out, Julie, they were clearly, this was a family discussion, or maybe you said that, Shannon. This was a family discussion over Thanksgiving.
I think he's known all along that he was going to pardon his son. He did actually think he was going to get reelected, but there's no question in my mind that obviously they had to have talked about it over the weekend because his time is coming to a close. But I believe from the get-go he knew he was going to pardon his son. I'm not sure of too many presidents that wouldn't pardon their child.
And a statement from Hunter Biden saying, I have admitted and taken responsibility for my mistakes during the darkest days of my addiction, mistakes that have been exploited to publicly humiliate and shame me and my family for political sport, said Hunter Biden.
Do we still have Shannon on the phone?
Yeah.
Shannon, I wanted this, Lisa Booth again. I wanted to have you walk us down memory lane of that sweetheart deal that Hunter Biden originally got. Take us through why that fell apart and how abnormal was that deal from deals that you've seen previously?
Well, listen, the federal judge had serious issues with it when it came before her. And he and his team, Hunter's team, legal team, felt like they had worked out all of the details, all of the potential, barriers and challenges there, that this was going to get done. It was going to be done quietly in this federal courtroom, and they would move on. President Biden, in his statement, refers to it this way: as a carefully negotiated plea deal agreed to by the DOJ. It unraveled in a courtroom, he says, with a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. But it was the federal judge herself who started to ask questions about this deal. Again, there were questions about language that seemed to be very sweeping, about not only covering him from the charges that he was facing, but against other potential future or other charges. And there was a real dispute about that. And even after it fell apart, Hunter's legal team for a long time argued that it was still in effect, that they had not broken away from the deal, and that the DOJ was still bound by that. Clearly, the DOJ, the special counsel, did not agree, but it was that judge who first started to ask questions and raised some real concerns that it didn't feel like a normal, solid plea deal to her as somebody who, this is what she does as a federal judge, and she would have to sign off on the deal, and she had enough concerns that she did not.
Okay, so we now have the entire statement, and it's a little long, but it's worth reading. Today, I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making and kept my word, even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Those who were late paying their taxes because they're serious addictions but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently. The charges in this case came about after several of my political opponents in Congress investigated them and attacked me and opposed my election. Then a carefully negotiated plea deal agreed to by the Department of Justice unraveled in the courtroom, with a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. Had the plea deal held, it would have been a fair, reasonable resolution of Hunter's cases. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober, even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. In trying to break Hunter, they're trying to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. For my entire career, I have followed a simple principle. Just tell the American people the truth. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice. And once I made the decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further. I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.